Chapter 10. Interviewing Mr. Horace Peeks. The three of them went back to Fatty and Bet's. Buster greeted them uproariously. "Hello," said Fatty. "How did you get on?" "Awfully bad at first," said Larry. "And then, right at the end, we had a slice of good luck." He told Betts and Fatty about the afternoon, and they listened with the greatest interest. They all examined Mr. Peeks's address and were thrilled. "So now, Pip and Daisy and I are going on our bikes to Wilmer Green," said Larry. "It's only about 5 miles. At least, we'll have tea first and then go." "I want to go too," said Betts at once. "I'd like to go, but I don't feel up to it," said Fatty. "You stay with Betts," said Pip. "We don't want to appear in a crowd. It might put Mr. Peeks on his guard." "You keep leaving me out," said Betts sadly. "No, we don't," said Larry. "Do you really want a job? Well, find out Mr. Smelly's address, see? Fatty will help you. It may be in the telephone book, or somebody may know it. We shall want his address tomorrow, because we must go and see him too. All the suspects must be interviewed." "2 of them are crossed off now," said Pip. "Mrs. Minns didn't do it, and I'm sure the tramp didn't either. That only leaves Mr. Smelly and Mr. Peeks. I do wish we could find someone wearing rubber-soled shoes with those markings. It would be such a help." "I'll find out Mr. Smelly's address," said Betts joyfully, pleased at having something real to do. "I'll bring the telephone book out here to Fatty." The children were called in to tea and ran indoors to wash. They were soon sitting down eating bread and butter and jam. Larry and Daisy stayed to tea, but Fatty had to go back to the hotel, as his mother was expecting him. After tea, Fatty came back and joined Betts. Larry and Pip and Daisy got out bicycles and cycled off. They knew the way to Wilmer Green quite well. "What excuse shall we make for asking to see Horace Peeks?" said Larry as they cycled quickly along. Nobody could think of a good excuse. Then Pip had an idea. "Let's go to the house and just ask for a drink of water," he said. "If Mr. Peeks's mother is there, I expect she'll talk 19 to the dozen, and we may find out what we want to know, which is, where was Horace Peeks on the evening of the fire? If his mother says he was at home with her all the evening, we can cross him off." "Good idea," said Larry. "And I'll tell you what I'll do, too. Just before we get to the house, I'll let the air out of my front tyre, see? And pumping up the bike will make a further excuse for staying and talking." "Right," said Pip. "I do think we are getting clever." After cycling for some time, they came to the village of Wilmer Green. It was a pretty place, with a duck pond on which many white ducks were swimming. The children got off their bicycles and began to look for Ivy Cottage. They asked a little girl where it was, and she pointed it out to them. It was well set back from the road, and backed on to a wood. The children rode to it, dismounted, and went in to the old wooden gate. Larry had already let the air out of his front tyre, and it was almost flat. "I'll ask for the water," said Daisy. They went up to the door, which was half open. There was the sound of an iron going thump, thump, thump. Daisy knocked on the door. "Who's there?" said a sharp voice. "Please, could we have a drink of water?" asked Daisy. "Come in and get it," said the voice. Daisy opened the door wide and went in. She saw a sharp-faced old lady ironing a shirt. She nodded her head towards a tap over a sink. "Water's there," she said. "Cups on the shelf behind." The 2 boys came in whilst Daisy was running the water. "Good evening," they said politely. "Thank you so much for letting us have some water. We've cycled quite a way, and we're awfully hot," said Larry. The old lady looked at him approvingly. He was a good-looking boy, and had beautiful manners when he liked. "Where have you come from?" she asked, thumping with her iron. "From Peterswood," said Larry. "I don't expect you know it, do you?" "That I do," said the old lady. "My son was in service there with a Mr. Hick." "Oh, how funny," said Daisy, sipping the cup of water. "We were down in Mr. Hick's garden the other night when there was a fire." "A fire?" said the old woman, startled.
What fire? I hadn't heard anything of that. Not Mr. Hick's house, surely?
No, only his cottage workroom, said Pip. No one was hurt. But surely your son would have told you about it, wouldn't he? Didn't he see it?
When was the fire?
Asked the old lady. Pip told her. Mrs. Peeks stopped ironing and thought.
Well now, that was the day Horace came home, she said. That's why he didn't know anything about it. He'd had a quarrel with Mr. Hick and he gave notice. He got here in the afternoon and gave me a real start.
Then he must have missed the fire, said Pip. I expect he was with you all the evening, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't, said Mrs. Peeks. He went out after tea on his bike, and I didn't see him again till it was dark. I didn't ask him where he went. I'm not one for poking and prying. I expect he was down at the Pig and Whistle playing darts. He's a rare one for darts, is our Horace.
The children exchanged glances. So Horace disappeared after tea and didn't come back till dark. That seemed very suspicious indeed. Very suspicious. Where was he that evening? It would have been so easy to slip back to Peterswood on his bike, hide in the ditch and set fire to the cottage when no one was about, and then cycle back unseen in the darkness. Larry wondered what sort of shoes Horace wore. He looked round the kitchen. There was a pair of shoes waiting to be cleaned in a corner. They were about the size of the footprint, but they didn't have rubber soles. Perhaps Mr. Peek was wearing them now. The children wished he would come in. I might just go and pump up my front tire, said Larry, getting up. I won't be a minute. But although he left the other two quite 5 minutes to talk, there didn't seem anything more to be found out. They said goodbye to Mrs. Peeks and went to join Larry.
Didn't find out anything else,
said Pip in a low voice.
Hello? Who's this? Do you think it is Horace?
They saw a weedy-looking young man coming in at the gate. He had an untidy lock of hair that hung over his forehead, a weak chin, and rather bulging blue eyes, a little like Mr. Goon's. He wore a grey flannel coat. All the children noticed this immediately. Daisy's heart began to beat fast. Could they have found the right person at last?
What are you doing here?
Asked Horace Peeks. We came to ask for a drink of water, said Larry, wondering if he could possibly edge round Horace to see if there was a tear in his grey coat anywhere. And we found out that we come from the same place that you lived in only a little while ago, said Daisy brightly. We live at Peterswood.
That's where I worked, said Horace. Do you know that bad-tempered old Mr. Hick? I worked for him, but nothing was ever right. Nasty old man.
We don't like him very much ourselves, said Pip. Did you know there was a fire at his place the day you left?
How do you know what day I left?
Asked Mr. Peeks, astonished. Oh, we just mentioned the fire to your mother, and she said it must have been the day you left, because you didn't know anything about it, said Pip.
Well, all I can say is that Mr. Hick deserved to have his whole place burnt down. The mean, stingy, bad-tempered old fish, said Horace. I'd like to have seen it.
The children looked at him, wondering if he was pretending or not.
Weren't you there, then?
Asked Daisy in an innocent voice.
Never you mind where I was, said Peeks.
He looked round at Larry, who was edging all round him to see if he could spot a tear in the grey flannel coat that Horace was wearing.
What are you doing? He asked. Sniffing round me like a dog. Stop it.
You've got a spot on your coat, said Larry, making up the first excuse he could think of.
I'll rub it off.
He pulled out his handkerchief, and with it came the letter that Lily had given to him to give to Horace Peeks. It fell to the ground, addressed side upwards. Horace bent to pick it up, and stared in the utmost astonishment at his own name on the envelope. He turned to Larry.
What's this?
He said. Larry could have kicked himself for his carelessness. Oh, it's for you, he said. Lily asked us to post it to you, but as we were coming over here, we thought we might as well deliver it by hand. Horace Peeks looked as if he was going to ask some awkward questions, and Larry thought it was about time to go. He wheeled his bicycle to the gate.
"Well, goodbye," he said. "I'll tell Lily you've got her letter."
The three of them mounted their bicycles and rode off. Horace shouted after them.
"Hey, you come back a minute."
But they didn't go back. Their minds were in a whirl. They rode for about 1.5 miles, and then Larry jumped off his bicycle and went to sit on a gate.
"Come on,"
he called to the others.
"We'll just talk a bit and see what we think."
They sat in a row on the gate, looking very serious.
"I was an idiot to drag that letter out of my pocket like that,"
said Larry, looking ashamed of himself.
"But perhaps it was as well. I suppose letters ought to be delivered, oughtn't they? Do you think Horace started the fire?" "It looks rather like it," said Daisy thoughtfully. "He had a spite against Mr. Hick that very day, and his mother doesn't know where he was that night. You didn't notice if his shoes had rubber, criss-crossed soles, did you, Larry? And was his grey flannel coat torn in any way?" "I couldn't see his shoe soles, and as far as I could see, his coat wasn't torn at all," said Larry. "Anyway, that letter will warn him now, and he'll be on his guard."
They talked for a little while, wondering what to do about Mr. Peeks. They decided that they would set him aside for a while and see what Mr. Smelly was like. It seemed to rest now between Horace Peeks and Mr. Smelly. It was no good deciding about Mr. Peeks until they had also seen Mr. Smelly. They mounted their bicycles again and set off. They freewheeled down a hill and round a corner.
"Larry went into someone with a crash. He fell off, and so did the other person."
Larry sat up and stared apologetically at the man in the road.
To his horror, it was old Clearoff.
"What? You again?"
yelled Mr. Goon in a most threatening voice. Larry hurriedly got up. The other two were farther down the road, laughing.
"What are you doing?"
yelled Mr. Goon as Larry stood his bicycle upright, ready to mount again.
"I'm clearing off!"
shouted Larry.
"Can't you see? I'm clearing off!"
And the three of them rode giggling down the hill, pausing to wonder every now and again if old Clearoff was on his way to see Horace Peeks. Well, Horace was now warned by Lily's letter, so Mr. Goon wouldn't get much out of him, that was certain.